Hey everybody, it's Dave with DII. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about shaping handpans today. A lot of times people have questions about, why is one handpan better than another handpan? There's all sorts of reasons about why one handpan sounds one way and another handpan sounds another. Personally, I pretty much like all sorts of varieties of handpans, so I'm not really super concerned about this technique or that technique, but obviously there are some handpans that are not made as well as others. Frequently there's beginner mistakes. A lot of people that are making handpans have not been making them that long. I've been making steel drums and handpans since about 1991, so I've got all sorts of crazy experience and lots of stuff that I've done in the past. With that being said, I just want to show you a little bit about what I've done on mine and why I do it. So I've got this little video over here on YouTube. If you go to our DII page, if you go to Dave's Island Instruments, there's the little logo right there. You search for it on YouTube. You'll be able to find it. Look for Dave's Island Instruments, and you'll find that logo DII there, and you just subscribe to the channel, and you can get all these videos. Now, you'll notice that I'm on the DII Handpan Workshop playlist, so if you want to look at a lot of workshop videos and stuff that I've tuned and am tuning, and different instruments that I've tuned that people have brought into my shop that I didn't make myself, but I've done tuning service on. Sometimes I put those on the internet so people can see how these instruments are built and how I repair them. Anyway, so the metal between the notes, we call that the interstitial metal. The interstitial metal is really important to the way the handpan sounds, and if it's not shaped just right, it can cause crosstalk, something that's called crosstalk. It's when you hit one note and you hear the other note sounding either just as loud as that note, and it just kind of creates interference. Sometimes it's a little bit less than the one that you're hitting. Sometimes it's the same volume, and it just you can never get away from it. You don't want to hear one note, but you're hearing two notes at the same time. So that's called crosstalk, and crosstalk can be a big problem if you don't shape the steel correctly between the notes. There's different varieties of ways of making handpans these days, and the way I make it is kind of like the traditional way, where you're shaping the metal with a hammer between the notes. Some handpan builders these days are choosing not really to touch that metal at all, and they do all of their tuning within the confines of the border of that note. So I'm going to show you what I do. I prefer this method. I like the way it responds to the hammer, and I like the way it responds to tuning, and also the way it creates longevity of the note. It doesn't seem to go out of tune as readily or as fast or whatever. All handpans eventually will go out of tune, so don't let anybody tell you, oh, mine never go out of tune. Handpans are made out of metal, doesn't matter what kind of metal they're made out of. Environmental influences can make them go in and out of tune. I've seen all sorts of handpans come in my doors, and almost all of them, if I've ever looked at them on a strobo tuner, something's wrong with one note here or there, slightly off, and you need to tune it and get it back into tune. Sometimes it's almost imperceptible how much out of tuneness there is, but anyway, all I'm getting at is pretty much every handpan goes out of tune. It's just like any other instrument, like a piano. It needs to get serviced every once in a while. And you call a piano tuner, and you don't have your neighbor tune your piano because they don't have the experience. So make sure that you're calling somebody that's experienced to get your handpan tuned. Alright, so let me just show you a little bit of this video. So here I've got a hammer. And you see there, I'm hammering in all the spaces between the notes. So I know that you can't quite see the notes really, really cleanly there. But you can see the big ding note in the middle. And I'm hammering the area between the notes, which is called the interstitial metal. And that interstitial metal needs to be curved just slightly in the opposite direction that the notes are curved, which creates kind of a little bit of an arc and an arch. And it's a really strong structure, and it keeps frequencies from resonating there. It's basically a very stiff part of the metal. So you need to make sure that that is done really well. All right, you also notice I'm going around the ding note there. So what I'm doing is I'm strengthening the perimeter of the note. I'm giving it tension. So it's kind of like a drum head has the little lugs on the drum. You screw those little screws and it makes the drum head get tighter. Same kind of thing is going on here. I'm basically going around that ding note and making sure that it's tighter, and that ultimately allows that metal to flex the way I want it to flex, and it makes it easier for me to tune, and I believe it keeps the note more in tune over a period of time, and it doesn't allow it to drift as much as if I didn't do that. If I didn't do that, there's all sorts of problems occur, like that ding note can go out of tune very quickly. Maybe it doesn't want to stay in tune. Like I would tune it and it might be in tune one day, but you come back the next day and it's out of tune. So that procedure right there is very important in the instruments that I make. So I just want to let you know. All right, let's skip ahead a little bit. You can still see I'm kind of working on that area a little bit. Oh, I'm going around the other notes now. Switching hammerheads. Okay, so you can see the majority of that video, and you can watch it yourself when you get home or wherever you're at after you watch this. But for the majority of that video, I was hammering with different pneumatic hammers to tighten the steel and to curve it just right to make sure that interstitial metal is just the way I want it. It's basically like a skeleton of the handpan. So if you have a poorly made skeleton on a body, then obviously you're going to have a poor ability to do what you need to do with your body. And so same kind of thing with the handpan. You need to have a good skeleton, basically good interstitial metal that's tightened just correctly the way you want it in order for the notes to resonate properly and have concise sound exactly in those little areas that you want each note to sound. All right, so I'm working with a wooden hammer. I made this hammer out of a baseball bat, which I'm very proud of. And I'm basically contouring the ding note, preparing it to be tuned, and I'm just kind of getting the shape of the note ready to go so it can be tuned later. All right, well, that was just a little bit of it. I probably did a little bit more than that. All right, so then I'm taking the drum off of the work table, and that pretty much does it. And somebody walked in on me, that's funny. All right, so there you go. That's me working on a drum, and that's why it's important that the drum is worked on in the appropriate way to get that interstitial metal nice and tight. Again, like I've said, there's other makers that make it completely differently, and they don't really even touch that interstitial metal, and they might have different techniques of theirs that will allow those notes to stay in tune or have good effect on when they are tuning it. But usually, like I said, if it's a note that the interstitial metal hasn't been touched, sometimes they work only and they tune only within the borders of that note, and it can be done. I'm not saying it can't. And there's also some people that are using heat treating to make sure that the notes kind of stay in tune. But this is the way I do it, and this is the way I really like it. And a lot of people are still making handpans this way. But like I said, if somebody is making them when they're inexperienced, those can be problematic if the interstitial metal is not prepared correctly. And this is even before it's tuned. So making a handpan, you have to think ahead a lot. And so that's one of the things you have to think ahead about, is making sure that the interstitial metal is shaped just right. All right, so that's it. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about interstitial metal and why it's important on a handpan, and why it's important that handpans are made in a way that will make the end result really pleasing. So that's it. Signing off now. This is Dave with DII. We'll see you next time.